Hello, Sci-Fi World. I'm Alexandre.
Hi, Sci-Fi World. Robert Englund here.
Well, you are here presenting a new kind of film, a 360 movie. Well, how borns that series and how borns begins for that?
It's everything started like a couple years ago. I was talking to a couple friends writer about how to create a new type of anthology of horror, a new creep show, a new Tale of the Crypt. And in the same time, I discovered the virtual reality with another friend of mine who introduced me to the technology, and I thought it was so amazing. It seems to be a technology coming out from like a sci-fi universe that didn't exist yet, and I was thinking about how cool it could be to get the most ancient storytelling type of situation where we gather people around the fire and we tell each other a scary story with that new cutting edge technology. And that's how we start thinking about Campfire Creepers. And then, as we were writing, I came to Madrid because of you. And you introduced me to this gentleman that I dreamt to meet for a very, very long time. And I was kind of thinking, and we were like, it was really the early stage of that process. And then we create the story, the first episode of The Skull Collector. I mean, Campfire Creepers is about a group of kids during summer camp around the campfire. And each episode is one of the kids telling a scary story. But each kid can tell the story if they get the Skull of Sam. But the Skull of Sam itself has a story. And the story is the Skull Collector. And so for that first episode, I wanted someone who could bring this legacy, this charisma, and I couldn't think about anyone else than Robert to be.
Well, it's nice because if he's a kind of Tales of the Crypt, creep show character. He has that weight to him and that kind of recognizability. And for him to be the kickoff story, it's almost like the Skull Keeper is the story behind the skull that will be in every episode that is passed around that inaugurates the new story by a new kid at camp.
Mm-hmm. And in the technical part, and then in the acting part, how is work with virtual reality? It's very different, I think, to shoot a film, a normal film.
It's so different. I mean, it's challenging on every level. I mean, first, it's something that just, have been discovered or invented, or I mean, it's been like a couple years since it exists, and every project require invention. I mean, like for this first season, we had to create our own camera, made of 11, black magic camera. The camera are shooting everywhere, 360, sky. The camera sees everything, so you cannot have a crew. So everything is done remotely.
And,
you have
and
to
the
leave
language is very different.
The language is also very different because every camera position, brings its own coverage. Like if I put the camera in between us right here, you will have the choice of looking at you, looking at us, looking on the side, looking at the camera, looking on the table, looking on the sky. So the audience have the choice of choosing where they want to look. Then it's up to the filmmaker to drive their attention to, hey, look at me, I'm here. Bring through the story, through the actors, like a way of, driving the story. And that's something also that I really wanted to do because VR most of the time is an experience as a point of view of someone. It's like driving a car, going, doing different type of thing, but it never really go with the cinematic narrative. And I wanted to do something that no one really done before in live action VR, which is editing, camera movements, macro shots, like all the tools that we use to tell story, but with the language of that new camera.
And to act in front of that kind of camera, because for an actor, I think that is very difficult to.
I wouldn't say difficult. The challenge in VR for an actor is that there's this pause, this time between takes, that's normally kind of an actor's time, and the actor is tended to, and the director gives him a note. The actor fixes something, corrects something, and you keep your emotions close to the surface so that you can go again right away. Cut, whisper, 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 okay, thank you, and action. Not like that at all with VR. In VR, we don't tend the actor. I get notes, I talk to Alex, but Alex must first watch 10 playbacks of every camera. So it's playback times 10. He's discovering a bunch of things. He has to worry about other things besides me. I'm only on one or two of the cameras. Plus, the camera crew must come down and take care of their baby because we're working outside. It's very delicate. It's a new instrument. All the lenses must be cleaned. All the memory cards checked. The electrical impulses. Sometimes we had to rebury cable. We have to, and Alex is checking to see if some crew members in the background of one of the cameras taking a piss. So we have to worry about all these elements. So as an actor, you have to serve the camera. The camera is Lord. I mean, he's my Lord, but so is the camera and the camera crew. And I began after a few takes and a few hours to learn the different jobs of the people that would come down. And I watched them and I learned to respect them and to give them their time and their distance. And I would just go off a little bit. Instead of claiming my space and protecting my acting space, I let them take it back. It was theirs. And so that's a give. And then the master also, the master shot. There is no cutaway. The audience, the viewer, decides where the editing is. So you have to kind of keep it together a little long. There is that freedom of knowing that they're going to cut away to that bottle, or cut away here, or cut away there, or whatever it's going to be. So there's a different kind of sustaining power. It's more like theater, more like doing a scene in theater.
Yeah, I suppose, but that means that you have to all prepare it a lot more than a movie. You need to take a lot of things in your mind.
I mean,
every shooting.
Every different camera position become another challenging element. Like every shot requests different setting, different lighting, different. I mean, it's pretty much like cinema, but indeed, it's a 360 experience. So
Yeah.
everything would be captured, and also it's up to you to decide that if you want the action to focus in one angle, or if you want something else to happen in the background, because you have to anticipate that people will enjoy revisiting the.
If you look away, if the viewer looks away from the primary action, everything he sees, Alex has staged, and so Alex has given the viewer options, but that becomes again, I'm sure it's like to the nth degree, as we say. It's magnified because Alex has to say, well, if someone does turn away, what do I want them seeing over here? So it's like he's got to worry about times 10.
And there is some Easter eggs that we put, in some of the shot. There is one shot where we are inside the skull of Sam at the end, and we like looking at the kids around through the eye socket of the skull. And one of the kids say, "Oh, come on, it's bullshit. I'm sure it's written made in China in the bottom."
Yeah.
Up to you as a viewer to turn around and see if yes or not it's written in the back of the skull.
That's great.
And I was watching the girls speak yesterday, the actress who plays Annie on the West End in London, and she's wonderful. She's a piece of work. And I was watching her scene yesterday on a rough cut, and I turned around. I just made myself turn around to see what the kids on the other side of the campfire were doing. Just as I got there, a boy put his arm around a girl and she slapped it away. And on top of this scene about adolescence and loss of innocence and scary stories and this collective experience that we all have with urban legends and myths, on top of all that, I had this flood of memories of my own camp experiences and like, you know, making out with a girl in a sleeping bag, but that adolescent thing, and that informed the whole experience for me. Their little improv that Alex had left in or encouraged on the day they shot it, and it meant so much, you know. And yet you could watch it 5 times and not discover that. You could be looking at the fire or watching a marshmallow cook or watching this girl intently telling the story or watching this girl react. It's just a very different experience.
Yeah, I think. And how to manage to construct the horror, the fear in this kind of
So
experience.
this first episode is more weird and ominous and some dark humor element in it and then scary. I think the second episode is a more suspenseful one, but there is so many different type of fear. You know, like I mean, the genre is such a rich subgenre and type of storytelling. So, you know, I think we have a lot of opportunity to create, but indeed, it's a good challenge because fear doesn't. I always thought that when you go see a scary movie, you bring with you the experience you have with all the other scary movies you've seen before. So your mind anticipates most of what's coming. And it's up to the filmmaker to play with that, to play with the grammar and change it. So you lose your, you know, like, you don't know where you are, you don't know what's coming. And to reinvent the fear is, I think, the mission of the storyteller. So that's what we're going to try to do as well.
The viewer's own personal experience is complete, a catharsis between screen and the viewer. But on the other hand, in VR, it's also incumbent upon the viewer, as an audience member, to explore this world that's been created for him.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.